Welcome to the Explainer. We're jumping into that part of the Premier League season where everything just feels different. The margins get incredibly tight, the data starts acting strange, and the weight of history can feel like an extra player on the pitch. So let's get right into it.
So, here's the big question we're going to try and answer today. Why is it that as we get deeper into the season, matches that look so simple on paper suddenly become so tough to call? What is really going on behind the scenes, both on the field and in the numbers?
We're going to call this point right around week 25, the fatigue phase. This is where the grind of the season, both physical and mental, really starts to bite. The margins for error just shrink to almost nothing, and the pressure on every single pass, every shot, it just ramps up like you wouldn't believe.
To really get this, let's look at our first case study, a huge game between Manchester United and Tottenham at Old Trafford. Now, this isn't just about formations and tactics. This is a game about expectation.
This quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the atmosphere inside that stadium. It's a place that doesn't just celebrate success. It audibly groans at every single mistake. That kind of pressure, you can feel it. It can tighten up a player's muscles and fog up their decision-making in a split second.
And you have to understand, that pressure, that enormous weight of expectation, it's not just about the current standings. No way. It's built on decades of history, of incredible triumphs, and of a really profound tragedy that truly defines the soul of Manchester United.
Back on February 6, 1958, a plane crash in Munich took 23 lives. 8 of those were the young, brilliant players everyone called the Busby Babes. So when the club rebuilt, it wasn't just to win trophies, it was to honor the memory of those who were lost. And that legacy, that spirit of remembrance, it creates this unspoken but immense pressure to succeed that every single person at that club feels to this day.
Okay, so how does all of that emotion, all that history actually show up in the numbers? Well, the models give United a pretty clear advantage. Their expected goals are way higher, and their probability of winning is sitting at nearly 47%. But, and this is a big but, look at the draw probability. It's really high at 34%. That's the model basically whispering, hey, this is not a sure thing.
Now, tactically, United's game plan is to control the match with slow, grinding pressure. Spurs, on the other hand, are dealing with a ton of injuries, so they're forced to sit back and react. And that is so risky, because if their midfield gets stretched even a little bit, they're going to face these relentless waves of United attacks.
And this just nails the point, doesn't it? The data doesn't see an easy win here. It sees a game that's all about pressure. United are expected to create the chances, for sure. But whether they win or not comes down to one thing. Can they actually convert those chances with all that weight on their shoulders? It is not inevitable.
Okay, so if history and pressure are the story of the United game, our next case study is about a totally different kind of late-season challenge, sheer volatility. We're heading down to the South Coast for Bournemouth against Aston Villa, a game where the data itself seems to be at war with itself.
See, on paper, you'd say Aston Villa is the better team. They have a higher ELO rating. That's just a way of measuring a team's strength. And they have better expected goal stats. But then you've got Bournemouth, who are famous for being spoilers at home. They love chaos, especially in their tiny, tight stadium where the crowd is right on top of you. It's a total statistical tug-of-war.
And what's so fascinating here is watching how the different predictive models argue about this match. Some of them look at the raw talent and lean towards Villa. But others, the ones that are good at spotting unstable situations, they're waving a big red flag saying Bournemouth could absolutely spoil the party. So when you mix them all together, the final call still favors Villa, but it's hedging its bets, acknowledging that a draw is a very real threat.
And that threat is a big one. The chance of a draw is sitting at over 33%. Late in the season, when one single point can be the difference between success and failure, a 1 in 3 chance of a draw is a massive risk you just can't ignore.
So here's the key idea for this matchup. The data says Villa is the better team, but not the safer bet. And those are two completely different things. Being better on paper doesn't mean a thing when you walk into a chaotic environment this late in the year.
Okay, so let's zoom out from these two games for a second. Because these trends, this pressure and this volatility, they're not just isolated incidents. They're part of a much bigger pattern that shows up across the entire Premier League right around week 25. It's when the numbers, league-wide, start to get really nervous. First off, the draw rate starts creeping up all across the league. And that's not a coincidence. It's a huge sign that the margins are getting tighter. Teams get more cautious. They're more worried about losing than they are excited about winning.
Secondly, and this one might surprise you, the home advantage actually starts to fade. Yeah, early in the year, playing at home is a huge boost of energy, but by week 25, that energy can turn into anxious, judgmental pressure. The need to win at home can make a team play tight, and that statistical boost just flattens out.
And then you've got the injury clustering effect. At this stage, it's not just about one player getting hurt. Injuries start to bunch up in the same positions. Suddenly 3 of your defenders are out. And that doesn't just mean you've lost a good player. It means the team's entire structure and chemistry starts to crumble, and the predictive models get way less confident.
And finally, my absolute favorite chaos metric, late goals. The number of goals scored after the 75th minute just skyrockets. And why? It's simple. Fatigue. Defensive shapes fall apart, players get sloppy, and tired brains make big mistakes. This is where seasons are defined.
So, after all that, the pressure, the history, the nervous numbers, what is the big takeaway here? What's the one thing you should really remember about this tricky phase of the season?
This quote just captures the whole paradox perfectly. As the season gets longer, the league table becomes a more honest reflection of who the best teams are. It lies less. But at the very same time, the tiny margins inside each individual game, they become more misleading and more crucial than ever before. And that leaves us with this final thought. In the fatigue phase of the season, being overconfident can be your biggest enemy. It's actually discipline, it's restraint, and it's having a deep respect for those tiny, deceptive margins that really makes the difference. Sometimes, the smartest move is the one you decide not to make.